Hello and welcome to our latest edition of Business Spotlight. Today we are joined by Nathan Lomax from Quickfire Digital. Nathan, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. So Nathan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Quickfire Digital?
Sure. So my name is Nathan. I'm co-founder of Quickfire Digital. We started the agency 1st of June 2017. The agency focuses on Shopify and Shopify Plus. So it's a real e-commerce focus, but it hasn't always been like that. When we first started, we were very much doing everything or trying to do everything for everybody. So we were doing a bit of pay-per-click, bit of social media, a bit of website development, etc. And over the years, we very quickly learned, and one of the biggest lessons we've had so far is that actually to really get to where we want to get to, we had to be known for something and we had to really hone in on specialism. And initially that was website development. So, I mean, it's a really scary process, right? When you say, okay, I'm going to cut off that part of the business and you think, well, what happens to revenues if all of a sudden you just cut that off? But over time, we phased that out and then we were just doing websites and we were doing it across 3 platforms. But as a business owner, and if you're listening today, you'll understand the importance of consistency. And so we were trying to create a machine-like process, but also give creativity to the team. And those two kind of conflict with each other. And so we found the best way to do that was to focus on one platform. The web and technology is moving so quickly, to try and be at the very forefront across 3 platforms was next to impossible. So we said, actually, no, we're going to put our eggs in this basket. We believe in e-commerce. We believe in the journey it's going. And the exciting developments that are coming to the world of e-commerce. And you know what? We're good at it, we enjoy it, and that's also really important. So yeah, luckily, I mean, I think we got to about 2019 when we decided this. Then lockdown happens, e-commerce goes ballistic. Tourism, which is the other one we thought we might kind of niche down into, rather than niching into service type, we might niche into sector and say, okay, we're going to focus there. Yeah, luckily we chose e-commerce, right? One went through the roof, one went through the floor, and we were just right place, right time. That then elevated our growth. We then became recognized by Shopify as one of 28 Shopify Plus partners. So it's like that enterprise tier in the UK, which was fantastic. That elevated us even further. And then it's just been imagine a snowball. It just compounds and grows and snowballs to where we are today. There's 26 people in the office here in Norwich. We've just moved offices and taken on a space double the size of where we are. It's now over 2 floors. We have control of the whole building, with a growth plan to get to around 50-60 here in Norwich. I think we will then look to look elsewhere. We've got some very exciting news about international expansion coming in probably the next 4 to 6 weeks, which I'm sure you'll all hear about. So that's another nice step for the business. And then it's just around consistency of work and making sure when you attract talent, you're able to retain talent, which is, I'm sure, something we'll discuss today.
Absolutely. It sounds like an incredible process you've been through to hone into that e-commerce focus. Tell us a little bit then about the types of clients that you work with as a result of going through that.
Sure. So one of the biggest things or the best things we did was really understand our ICP, our ideal customer profile. So for us, a typical client for us is turning over £1 million a year and upwards. So there's 2 sides to the business. There's migrations. So you're taking people away from a big commerce, a Magento, a PrestaShop, a WooCommerce, and you're taking them into the Shopify environment, or they're already on Shopify and they're looking to scale what they're doing. So they're looking to improve conversion rate, average order value, repeat purchase, new sessions, 3 or 4 core metrics you'd find in any e-commerce business. And so some of the work we do, which is more the retainer side of the business, I think that's one thing when you're talking to companies like ours, a lot of it is project focused. So you get this real feast or famine growth curve where, okay, fantastic month, not so good month, fantastic month, not so good month. Whereas what we've tried to do is, whereas last year 80% of the business was project based and 20% retained, this year, by the end of the year, we should have shifted there or thereabouts to be 80% retained, 20% project, which is the holy grail of where we're trying to get to. If we can do that and maintain the fantastic team we're building and continue to build the right type of client, and I think when you're growing and chasing targets, and particularly in a project-based business, you sometimes take on the wrong clients. And so for us, it's about, okay, if we can get to 8, 12, 16 projects a year of the right type of client, 12, 13 of those should go into retainer naturally. That feeds that pipe. and then you can start to scale it as we are. But I mean, growth is exciting, growth is hugely rewarding, but growth doesn't come without its challenges.
Of course, absolutely. And tell us a bit then, Nathan, about how you got into the business in the first place.
Yeah, so I was very lucky that my parents are hugely entrepreneurial. They've run hotels all their lives, and so I've always wanted to have my own business. But when I was 18, I was very fortunate to go to a very good school. The challenge was that university was almost the done thing at that school. And I think actually of all the students that were there, maybe one or two didn't go, including myself. All the rest went and have gone on to do great things. But I still, to this day, don't believe university is for everyone. And while I would have loved the social side and the sports and everything else, I just had this itch that I wanted to do my own thing. So in 2012, I left school, grew a business as a bit of a lifestyle for 3 or 4 years. That was great. We're earning great money and I had a really nice lifestyle, but it wasn't the agency I'd always dreamt of. I had a team out in India and that was great and they were wonderful people, but it wasn't the big open plan office I'd always dreamt of, which is what we have today. So yeah, essentially 2017 we rebranded from what was nathanlomax.com to Quickfire. I met two other guys who had their own businesses. We all came together to create Quickfire, and then we get this idea of swim lanes where you have, okay, Martin, you look after systems process finance. Fred, you look after e-commerce strategy. Nathan, you look after new business sales and growth. If you can each do your bit, then the business should scale. And sure enough, did I anticipate the economies of scale to have quite such an impact? Probably not. But at the same time, the three of us have come together to create something rather powerful and exciting. Now the challenge is, okay, when is enough enough? Yeah, and essentially you get to a stage where you're like, okay, growth is amazing, but growth comes at a cost, and it's not just a financial cost, it's to your own health. And I'm sure you get this a lot with people on the kind of show, etc. What's right for the founder isn't always right for the business, and vice versa. Okay, so me massively growth motivated, it really excites me. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning. Growing 50, 60% a year more, amazing. But at the same time, it will kill the business if it keeps growing at the rate it is. So it's just understanding what's right for the agency and what's right for the people within the agency versus what's right with the founding team. And that's something we're discussing at length at the moment to make sure we get what's right for the business as opposed to just what's right for the founders.
Absolutely, and getting that balance right is so important. You've also talked about growth being exciting. What do you find is the best thing about running your own business?
I think when I went into running a business, I had three core goals. One was financial freedom, one was time freedom, and the other is being in control of your own destiny. What you quickly realize when you scale a business, and I used to work with another action coach, a great guy called Phil, and I got a lot of time for him. And we always joked about this because actually, as soon as you started to build a business, I didn't have any of those things. Like I earned far less money than I've ever earned, because I kept reinvesting it back in the business. Time wise, well, I've worked far more hours than I ever worked. But at the same time, at least by the third one being present, being in control of your own destiny, you know that you're doing those two for a payoff later down the line, which essentially is grow to sell. Yeah, and actually, if the model was grow to retain or be here in 20, 30, 40 years doing the same thing, then perhaps I would change the model and maybe just put in a few less hours or not grow at the pace we're trying to grow at. So yeah, it's like I said earlier, growth is incredibly exciting, but growth comes with its challenges.
Mhm. Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about maybe one of those challenges that you're facing at the moment. Is there anything in particular that stands out to you?
Yeah, I'd say resourcing. So you want to grow and you want to scale up, and hiring good people is hard. Finding them is hard enough, particularly in the region we're in. There's some amazing people in this county, but there's been a big draw of them going to London and getting paid superb salaries, share ownership, etc., etc. Stuff you can't compete with, right? As a business, I wish we could, but we can't. So then you're like, okay, well, first you've got to find good people, then you've got to attract them, then you've got to retain them. And that's something that we're putting a lot of emphasis and focus on at the moment. Is realistically the business needs to take on 3 or 4 more developers in the next 6, 7 months. Okay. If that's the case, how are we going to find them? You've got recruiter fees, which are normally 15 to 20% of their yearly salary. So that's a big chunk into profitability. You've got to onboard them. We're now starting to get more used to teams not necessarily being here in Norwich. So we just hired a brilliant guy up in Durham, which is our first proper remote hire. That's exciting, but then you've got challenges around the culture and silly things. So last week it was Easter and we got everyone an Easter egg and fantastic, all on their desks. But what about Billy in Northumbria or Durham? He doesn't have an Easter egg, and okay, I could have sent one to his house, etc., etc. But like it just little things like that, you miss out on those water cooler style chats. So yeah, that's a challenge of growing a team remotely. But I think we will continue to have this hybrid model of trying to find the best people. And if they're in Norwich or Norfolk, fantastic. If they're not, okay, where are they and how can we get them to come and visit as much as possible, feel part of the team? But if home for them is Newcastle, Durham, wherever, then that's okay as well.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm sure anyone who's watching and listening to this who might be interested will be happy to get in touch with you directly, Nathan. And just thinking back to your 18-year-old self, so you talked a little bit about your journey at the end of high school and what you did next, but is there's one piece of advice that you could give yourself when you look back, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. You will be amazed how many people are prepared to give their time, share knowledge, share advice, share wisdom, often without charge, but sometimes with charge. And it's invaluable to surround yourself with people that have been there, seen it, done it. I talk a lot about a model that my friend Marcus taught me, which is the plus equals minus model. So surround yourself with people that are further on the journey than you, ideally doing a similar thing to learn from, the same stage as you, so peers doing a similar thing, and earlier on than you as well, which is hard when you're starting out, but there will be people that are starting out even earlier than you. So just try and surround yourself with those type of people. So now I find myself in a position where I'm going for quite a lot of walk and talks and things like that with fellow agency founders that are doing maybe 5 to 10 million a year, and that's great. That's where we're trying to get to. So I'm learning lots from them. I'm doing a lot of agency lunches down in London where we've got 40, 50 people of agencies a similar size. And then I mentor 5 or 6 agencies who are a bit earlier on. And through that process, you learn an awful lot from each of those stages. So yeah, that's my big thing. If I was looking back, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help and also believe in yourself. I think there was a lot of people at the time that were a bit like, oh, this is a dangerous move, and what with everything going on and the economy, and maybe you should just go and get a job, etc. And I think actually, if I'd had more self-belief, I've come to get that self-belief now, but that's only been validated by the journey we've been on for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But actually, yeah, I think definitely ask for help and believe in yourself.
Fantastic. Wonderful advice to share, and also the model to share with people, which will, I'm sure, give people great food for thought. Nathan, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Just before we go, if anyone would like to find out more about Quickfire Digital generally, or perhaps even coming to work with you, looking for those roles, where should they go?
I'd say the best place is LinkedIn. So connect with myself on LinkedIn, follow the company page, my own page. I post every single day about the journey. I'm really dedicated to doing that and taking people on the journey with me. I want people to understand and realize that I'm no different to everybody else, right? I went to school. I decided not to go to university, but then I've had a very standard life, and I just want people to show that if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. I have long debates with colleagues, friends, my partner Nikki about this very thing. If you want it, you can make it happen. And we have a family phrase about make it happen. And so that's what I'm trying to do for my LinkedIn, is showing you that if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And I share the good stuff, and I'm starting to share the not so good stuff as well, just to show a real transparent side of the journey. But anyone got any questions, want to chat, etc., always feel free to connect and reach out. I'm more than happy to support where I can. And thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, and wishing you all the very best with Quickfire Digital.
Thank you.